What is going on, Ticker Nation?
Kate and Max on the couch for a impromptu live ticker talk.
What are we talking about today?
So I want to highlight one of our members' improvements with his metabolic
Awesome.
test
Awesome.
and then his body composition.
Do we have a picture of Chris we can pop up there quick, Alex? Awesome. So tell us just real quick about Chris, like and maybe what some of his goals are, and
Sure. So
what you've been doing with Chris to help him reach his goals.
Chris joined. I can actually look. I have his True Coach up. Chris joined. He's been a great member since the beginning of October. He came to us. Oh, look, there's Chris skiing. Oh, wait, we're delayed. It's not
Awesome.
actually Chris skiing. We got it. We shouldn't watch it live. So Chris came to us in October with the intention of just starting to get better at, regular routine, getting into shape, so to speak. Fit, young, healthy guy, just wanted to kind of get into a regular routine.
You said he's got some goals of putting on some muscle and reducing fat. And
so initially he came in and saying, like, I just want to get back into the gym. Quarantine, hadn't been in the gym, working out at home, wanted to get into a routine of coming in. Once he started training, he remembered how much he liked it.
Got it.
And now has set some goals for himself to put on some muscle, start lifting again. So when we bring anybody in on a ticker program, we do the initial metabolic test with the PNOE analyzer. And so we did that for Chris as well. And I'll bring it up on my screen. So when we did his initial test, let's bring up all the data at the top. For those of you unfamiliar with what our metabolic test is, it's a ramp-up test on the assault bike. You start really slow, and I ramp you up until muscular failure. Essentially, you can't hold my pace anymore, and we get an idea of what your VO2 peak is, so the maximal volume of oxygen you bring in at the peak moment where you're trying to continually move. And then we get an idea of what you burn for fuel and how efficient you are. So numbers to look at for Chris.
And all of that is to be able to guide his programming, correct? Right?
So
you utilize this information to then give him some training zones to make sure he's making the correct adaptions to create a plan that's going to be for longevity, for health, get him back into his routine, not overwork him, all of these types of things that help set him up for success, right?
And we can guide his nutrition based on this. We can guide this, sets his intensity. Cool. So we know when we put him out on the floor, with a heart rate monitor on, we know where his intensity starts. So we know how to train every energy system in his body while he goes, depending on his goals.
Cool.
So you can see on my screen here, the very first test he made at 11 minutes. His VO2 peak was 35.6. That's milliliters of oxygen per minute per kilogram of body weight.
So essentially his VO2 max
was about 36. His RER mean, so that's a measurement that I look at as a measurement of stress, was 0.9. Anything under 0.8 is efficient. Anything over 0.9 is inefficient. So
it showed he needed some improvement.
He was relatively inefficient on the test. And then if we look at it, he burned just about 80% carbs to just about 20% fat.
Got it. So just maybe show his overall graph. So
Right. So down here, all of those numbers come together here. So you can see where yellow is where he's burning fat and breathing oxygen the most efficiently. And you can see he has a decent aerobic capacity. It comes up here till, right there. If we look at the numbers on my screen, we have a 443, which is time, and a heart rate 126.
Okay.
So you can see his aerobic capacity goes to about 126 beats.
And then anything after that, he's throwing a RER of 1.0.
Which is stress.
Which basically means on a cellular level, he is hyperventilating.
Absolutely.
He is not going to keep up. He's starting to utilize only lactate really as a fuel source, and he's on a short leash for
and you can see that up here on this chart. The red is the carbon dioxide out, and the blue is oxygen in. He's obviously still breathing oxygen in, but it's not efficient. He's just not using it as energy.
You probably gave him guidance on that. What did you tell him for most of his MAT training or his metabolic?
Right. So this is one where I'm like, I don't know you very well, but we'll see how well you can move at a low heart rate. And I think we can look at his training. You can see here where he attached these heart rate charts. Actually, it's really hard to see them, but average heart rate somewhere around 110. You can see like 111 for this day.
What was he reporting at that time?
You can see 114 on this day.
Yeah, that's...
And we would talk back and forth. And in fact, we had a conversation on Sunday. I think it was Sunday when I asked how it felt, or maybe it was yesterday, where, if I look, right here, 30-minute aerobic assault bike. He got 138 cals at 40 RPM average to keep his heart rate in check. And you can see right here, his average heart rate was 98.
Yeah, good for him.
And I asked him, I said, was it, how easy did the bike feel? And he said, fairly easy.
Okay, yeah, good.
And I knew we were going to do this test again this morning. So basically, we can look through here and we can see he stays around 100 beats. And so if I look back at his PNOE test, you know, his fat max was probably right here around 85. And really, you know, coming around through here, this 90 to 100 beats, he drops off there at 110 beats.
Got it. So he was,
and even then, it's kind of right here at 100.
This is somebody that we would consider, like, I don't want to say completely metabolically broken, but he certainly wasn't metabolically efficient or flexible or just didn't have a well-developed metabolic system for utilizing different fuel. He was pretty much either... It was mostly sugar right from the start.
And exactly. And, you know, he ate at the time when we were talking about his diet, he eats a fairly high carbohydrate diet. So, I mean, at that point, if he has the fuel to utilize, his body will pull it. Sure. But he also, you know, is one of those people that you watch in the gym would tire out. You know, it looked like he was working really hard on things.
Because he was working hard. Metabolically, at 140 beats, he was going to RER of 1.0.
Absolutely.
That is stressful. I don't care how he might report to feel, because he might even say, oh, I feel fine. Well, yeah, but metabolically you are hyperventilating.
And we challenged him a lot to learn, and his programming looked at, you know, if I come back out of here and I look at some of these other charts where he had spikes that came up a little bit higher into these higher ranges, you know, or like this one where he was sitting up at, oh man, old lady eyes here, 175 beats. We talked about this workout, you know, whether or not he could have maintained it for an hour. And the answer was no.
Right.
Like,
no
it was
way.
great for 3 rounds through here. And you can see it's repeatable, but...
That was VO2 max work for him.
Right, exactly. But it worked because it was this very short amount of time.
Right.
So he put in a lot of really good aerobic work. We can look at his average heart rate. We can see that he also trained up in those higher energy systems, but within controlled manners.
Got it. So he did a lot of strength training as well during this time.
And he did a lot of strength training. So he's doing
your
kind of some bodybuilding work.
Yeah, your typical, you know, he did a lot of dumbbell work, yes. And
Yep.
so, you know, where it was, you know, 5x5 and things like that, right?
Yeah, endurance capacity.
Well,
yeah, I mean, tons and tons of stuff.
Right,
Anyway.
so real quick, show us before again of his PNOE graph.
So here we
there.
have this before. You can see his aerobic capacity where this purple and yellow are. They're important to note.
Okay. Show us one that he did. Was
So
this
we
today?
did another test today as a check-in. It's been since October. And after that assault bike, and it felt really easy. And I'm noticing some changes in the gym. He's moving
Sure.
more fluidly. He has some goals where, you know, he wants to put on significant amount of muscle. No time frame, but is ready to start training.
Cool.
So the best way is to retest. So this is his test from this morning. And immediately you can see the difference in just that there's no purple right here.
Yeah, it's significant.
First thing we're going to do, though, is look back here at all of these details.
What's his VO2 now?
So his VO2 is up to 45.8, so about 46.
From 35 or something?
From 35.
Yeah, so that's significant.
That's significant in 6-ish weeks.
What was his total time in the 2 tests?
He made it 11 minutes before, and he made it to 11:30 today.
Okay, so
30
that's
more
significant
seconds.
because that's a whole nother RPM, right? That he had to maintain.
Correct. So before, when we stopped at 11, he was at, what is that, like
63.
63, and he
so he
made
had to
it
get to
30 seconds
65.
at 65.
Awesome. So that's very significant in a short amount of time to improve his overall work capacity.
And let's remember, like, take aside, you know, his heart rate at that point was peak. He hadn't done a whole lot of training up there.
Right,
You know,
right.
he'd been doing a lot of aerobic training. So to even hit 67 RPMs or 65
Right.
and to be working that hard, you know, that was a significant effort that he was able to do it. Reason he was able to do it is if we look at his RER mean at 0.82, he was efficient all the way up into that
Yeah,
point.
that's awesome.
So
That's
to see
huge.
those numbers, then we can look at he was burning about 50-50 carbs to fat.
Sweet.
So all great metabolic changes, becoming more efficient, using more oxygen as fuel.
Right. So now he starts to be able, you can apply a little bit higher heart rates to his training, right? So he's gone from
Right.
training at 115 to now what does he get to train at? What did you tell him today?
Well, we'll look down here. First thing I want to note is look at all this. This blue is oxygen in, and the gap in between means he's absorbing all that oxygen. This is significant in a chart to see oxygen win all the way down past 600 seconds.
Huge. It's
Like,
huge.
that's aerobic capacity there. So if we look at all that oxygen and we come down to the bottom where we now have this yellow fat burning aerobic efficiency, right? He's burning fat all the way to the very end of the test.
Yeah, that's huge. So now you're going to send him, start new training. What's his new fat max, or where do you give him guidance now for his training?
Well, if we looked at how he averages out, around 100, 115 beats, and then I found 116 beats right here before he picks any carbs up at all.
Yeah.
That is where, and he says he feels great. Like, he can do a whole lot of work.
Right.
So we're still going to cluster a lot under 116.
Got it.
Now, if I look at it, he's still doing really well through 120s. So we'll gradually see what happens when he starts applying maybe a little bit heavier weights, or we add in some more skills.
Well, all of that will reflect even when he's doing his strength work.
Yeah.
If he starts front squatting, he's going to recover faster. He's going to be able to pull more energy easier and recover and not have as much muscle soreness.
Right.
He'll just be able to
do more with less effort.
Correct. He'll be able to go further down the nervous system and work harder.
And if I look at it here, he just really needs to stay under this crossover point here. It's easier to see in the chart above. Like, we want to push this 133 number a little bit farther. I'd like to see it up here, 140, somewhere in here. He has an adaptation at 145, and then he's got this great chunk right here through, 145 to 150.
So you're essentially asking him to be a little bit patient, a little longer, doing a little bit slower work, so long term he can have greater capacity. So,
absolutely.
Because right now you could, if his only goal was, lose some more fat or something like that, then you could improve it and give him more work to do in a half hour at a higher heart rate so he could get more reps, more quantity, burn more calories. But it's going to be a little short-sighted because you're going to give up a little bit of capacity for that. So you're playing the long game with him, which is super cool because you want to go ahead and show what his in-body shows, his body composition.
Right. So this was one thing that we've now, looked at his metabolic system. He's using oxygen efficiently. He's got a much improved aerobic capacity. His VO2 max is up and he's using fuel 50-50. Now, I know one of his goals is to put on a significant amount of muscle. So the other baseline we did when he came in is he did an in-body test. And the best way to see it is down here on this little body composition chart. So when he came in, he was 166 pounds. And you can see the little line comes up to he's 168 pounds.
Awesome.
Which is good. Skeletal muscle mass is from 84 to 89.7.
Whoa. Wow.
So he's put on a decent amount of muscle. And his body fat, where is that? Oh, wait, look, here's it bigger. 66 to 68, 84 to 89. Body fat went from 16 pounds down to 10 pounds.
Well, huge.
Right?
So what do you think... why do you think, I'm setting you up here, so why do you think he's had such great results?
He's done the program. He's done a really good job of
following through, learning,
trusting himself, learning, listening,
taking it serious.
Absolutely.
He doesn't come in here to work out to earn his Thanksgiving or to earn his cookies.
No, we've had a significant discussion about nutrition, how he should fuel himself, to build muscle. He eats a really clean diet, manages his life stresses as well as he can. He works in the medical field, so he has a lot of life stress right now. Prioritizes sleep. We had a long conversation a couple weeks ago about he actually needs 2 days full rest every week, and 1 day needs to be a conditioning day and one needs to be a short day when he does come in. Him knowing that, paying attention to soreness and stiffness and, what he craves and everything else. And then having a goal in mind of putting muscle mass on and then coming in and just taking the time to do the reps well.
That's awesome.
If I look at him in the gym, he doesn't have the heaviest weights. He's not carrying around the heaviest dumbbells. It is maintaining that, the metabolic adaptions first.
Sure.
So that he can absorb his training.
Yeah, and he has a few movement pattern things that we're still working on and improving. He's a long, tall human.
Yeah.
So he's got some things to work on, but it doesn't have to be he's made some incredible changes.
Absolutely.
Now he is what I would call a very focused member. Mm-hmm. So he is taking everything that we've taught him and utilize it to his best ability, which
Absolutely.
is now that also begs to show, like somebody might be listening saying, oh, I could never be that dedicated, or I could never do that. That's all fine. It just means you won't make the changes in a month that Chris did.
And that's a great point.
But you'll still make progress. You don't have to be as uber motivated and dedicated and as straight on this as Chris and still see results. You just might have a few more bends in the road to get there. So
and his life is aligned so that he can focus on this because
yeah,
it's what,
he's put this a priority.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, his progress coming forward, I don't know, like we saw this huge gain.
Yeah, well, he's going to have a little bit of the 6-week newbie gains, but the main fact here is we've got some data to be able to move forward in an appropriate manner to guide him to make sure he continues progress. And that's not to say he's not going to go back a little bit and then have to go forward again, but you know, all of this information that you have and the last month and a half of getting to know Chris is so valuable for him to know it himself, to continue to be able to.
Well, this was really motivating for him.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is
who wouldn't be motivated by putting on that muscle and losing that fat and seeing capacity go up? I mean, that's
absolutely,
that's huge.
And to be honest, we're not changing anything in the program.
Yeah.
You know, this is a great check-in to see that it's working and to
I
know where we sit now. But the fact is like his strength building and all those little tiny things that he's doing for stability right now aren't changing just because now he can work at a higher heart rate.
Right.
He's still going to probably cluster a lot of his training around an average heart rate of 111 to 115 beats.
What's super cool is like really his main goal, what you said, was he just wants to get back into the routine. Mm-hmm. Like, so right now, all of these great successes were really just a side bonus to him getting into a routine and getting, you know, prioritizing life and health. So
we can look at this like he's now earned the right to pick a new goal.
Yeah.
Like,
well, he can play a little bit now.
Yeah.
You know, he's healthy enough. His metabolic system is fixed. If he wants to just, you know, have a good hard workout from time to time, it's not going to be a huge detrimental effect to him. It won't ruin his training. So.
No.
Well, thanks, Kate, for sharing. And Chris, of course, if you see this, thanks for being an awesome member and letting us talk about you. And
absolutely.
Anybody that wants to learn more and be like Chris, please reach out.
Get a baseline, figure out where you're starting from, develop a plan to have results like this.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.